In today's gospel, we hear about a side of Jesus that we would not normally think of. You know, Jesus, one, ignores somebody, then two, he deliberately insults them. What's going on? Did he have his cup of coffee that morning? Unlike me. Anyhow, there's a purpose to today's gospel reading. There's a purpose to why Jesus is so abrupt today. And the reason is it's a continuation in Matthew's gospel from what just happened. If you remember, what just happened is Jesus had a discussion with the Pharisees. And basically, it was a discussion of how the Pharisees justified every little thing that they did, which went against the principle of the commandments. So, for example, if you remember, Jesus accused them, you say it's okay not to obey your parents if you say it's done in the name of God. You're taking the whole thing out of context. This segment is playing on that. He's using Jewish concepts and Jewish thoughts of the time to make them think. So let's look at this. Jesus went out to Tyre and Sidon, Canaanite territory. The Canaanites were despised by the Jewish people. They were pagan. Why did Jesus go there? He probably wanted some rest. So he goes there, and this Canaanite woman comes up and asks him to help her. One, she shouldn't be talking, because women at that time period were supposed to keep quiet. But she didn't. She was screaming and making a nuisance of herself. He ignores her. Then when she persists, he basically says, "Lady, I'm not here for you. I'm here for the lost children of Israel." The thing to remember, Jesus responded. Keep that in mind. She comes up to him, "Lord, help me." Jesus then uses the prejudice of his people. It's not right to give to the dogs what's from the master's table. Now, you wouldn't know this because it's in English, but the original Greek, the word that they use for dog is not the usual word of contempt. It's actually the word that is used for a household pet, something that is loved and cherished. It's not in English. She plays along with that. She understands what's going on, and she says, "Lord, even the master feeds from his table, his beloved." Now, why is he doing this? One, he's setting everybody up for the moral. Two, he knows that she's not Jewish. He knows that she's pagan. He knows that she may never become Jewish. He wants to test her faith. And when she continues putting her trust in him, that's when he gets her request. Now, what does all this mean for us? Jesus is using this for all those Jewish readers who are reading this with preconceptions. It's like we Americans, how we used to think about the communists. They were bad people. They were, wanting to conquer the world. We saw them as an object rather than people. Matthew is telling the Jewish people, look at what you're doing. Look at what you say versus what you do. You say, as we heard in the first reading, accept everyone. You say that anybody who comes to God is welcome. But yet, you have contempt. Yet, you want to get rid of people because you don't want to deal with them. For us, that still applies. How often have we, or do we, put other people in contempt? We see them as inferior. Whether it's, hey, they don't live in Hampton, they're not good enough. Hey, if they're not of a certain monetary background, well, I'll dismiss them. They're not, they don't know what they're talking about. If they're not the right ethnicity, well, we have to make exceptions for them. Do you see what we're doing? Instead of welcoming like the Lord, the way we're supposed to, we're becoming just like the Pharisees. But Father, I don't do that. Okay? Here's one for you. It's Christmas Eve. It's Easter. How many of you complain about the people you only see twice a year? Why are they taking my pew? Can't they stand? They're only here twice a year. It's very easy to do. We all do it, myself included. The gospel tells us to go beyond that. What's one of Father Regis's favorite expressions here? All are welcome. Sometimes we staff kind of cringe at that. Should we, though? When was the last time you welcomed somebody you didn't know in church here? When was the last time, oh, I haven't seen you here before. Welcome to St. Catherine's. It's very easy. It's very easy to justify what we do. It's very difficult to think about it and go beyond. Let me close with a story. It's something for you to think about. A group of people died, and they're waiting in the waiting room to be judged in heaven. And they're talking about what they did in life. And time passes, and time passes. They're starting to get a little antsy. Then they start to complain, why is this taking so long? As they're waiting, some other people come into the waiting room. One's a prostitute, another's a drug dealer, another's a mafia. And they start giving the glances. What are they doing here? They start whispering among themselves. And at one point, one of them gets up and goes over to that second group. What makes you think that you'll get into heaven? And the person responds, I hope to rely on God's love and mercy. What makes you think you'll get into heaven? The way I lived. At that moment, Jesus comes in. I hear you've been waiting for the judgment. Yes, let's get this over with. Says the judgment has already taken place, and you lost. For how you reacted to the least of my brothers and sisters, you have done it unto me.